Hello everyone! Today in this quick short 3D ripping tutorial I want to show off a quick trick with texture offsets that you're going to need. Now as an example here I've prepared a That's Horrible, or That's a Rebel, I don't know how you pronounce his name, animation which is his damage pre, so he shrieks up and there's a mesh swap going on right here between the foreheads, which is why you see this effect in the viewport, but that's not what I'm here to show you today. I'm going to explain that to you possibly in a different tutorial. The important part here is that his eyes, at first, are normal, and then they're tiny, but they use the same mesh. Now the way this is done, let me open the texture material editor, there we go, is as you can see, if you look at the material right here, you'll notice there's actually 4 different eyes. I'll insert the full texture on the screen right now, and you can see there's 4 different eyes. And what you have to do is you have to set the offset so that instead of showing the regular eye, which is the one in the top left, it instead shows one of the other ones. Now I'm actually going to go open a different file of DATs. One second. Here we have his A damage animation, where throughout the entire animation his eyes look shocked. Now if I just load in this animation without anything else, the material editor won't open, there we go. Now if I just load in this animation without doing anything, it's gonna look like this, with his regular eye. Now what I need to do is I need to go into the eye texture and then click on this little M button. That's the map. And then here, you can see I can set the offset. There's the U and the V value. And now how far do I have to set this offset? If I set it to 1, nothing changes, because if I set it to 1, it's just going to go once over. And because you can see there's 4 different eyes here, U and V, they correspond to horizontal and vertical each. I don't know which is which, but they correspond to those, so you just have to test around. You have 4 eyes. So instead of going 1, which is, 1 over, you go a half, so 1.5. And now you see his eyes are smaller. And because there's 4 eyes total, you have a total of 4 possibilities of eyes. You can have 0, 0, that's the regular, 0.50, that's this, 0 and 0.5, that's even smaller, and then lastly 0.5 and 0.5 looks to me to be a variant of regular. Yeah, looks pretty similar to the regular one. But that's how you do texture offsets. And then going back to the other animation I have right here, if I click on the eyes, you can see I've actually keyframed the different eye movement. So I've made 2 keyframes right here and right here, corresponding to 0.0, so that during the first 3 frames it stays at 0.0. It quickly changes here, I don't know why it does that, I can just shift click and then we'll have another keyframe with 0, 0 right here. So we have 3 0, 0 frames, and then the last frame sets it to 0 and 0.5. And that's how you can do that. But if you do make these keyframes, be sure to have auto key enabled. Now there are other methods of using this texture offset. Let me show you another animation that utilizes this in a different way. Alright, this animation just opened. This is the laughing animation where Dats laughs at you. And as you can see, the tears coming out of his eyes, they're a mesh. They move. But if I click on them, you'll see there's a keyframe every step of the way. That's because they don't move automatically. They're made to move using UV offsets. Now if you look at the map hold on, I think I actually made this, yes, I made this a separate texture. Because the reason I made this a separate texture is because this texture is used both by the tears, but by other parts of him as well, such as the goggles, I can think at the top of my head, or these little dangly things from his scarf. So if I set the offset just on this texture, then this would work, but then these would break. So I made a separate texture. Of course I self-illuminated it, and also made it transparent, which I will cover in another tutorial, if need be, how to make textures transparent. And then I put the offset on this, and you'll see the offset always goes, it's pretty random, sometimes it goes 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, That's because I based this off of in-game footage. But the principle that I showed you with the eyes is more or less the same. Be sure to have auto key enabled, and then just replicate it like that. And if you want to replicate a keyframe, for example, here he's at 0.75 for 3 total frames. So in these 3 total frames, let's say, let's keep these empty for now. And then let's say, oh, I want them to move here though. So you enable auto key, and you just put in 0.75, and then it automatically makes a keyframe right here. And then you hold down shift and click again. And you do that all the time, and then once you're done, you'll have this. Now if you play in the viewport, it looks kind of broken. That's because you see sometimes it looks like, it's being broken in half, the tier. That's because 3ds Max in its viewport tries to tween between the frames, which if you have texture offsets like these might look really weird. But if you want to look at it how it will look in the end product, don't click play. Instead just drag along the playhead. Drag it backwards if you will, and you'll see everything works just fine. And that's more or less how you do texture offset and how you can use it. Happy ripping.